one of Deloitte's 5 shared values. We know we're at our best when we embrace diversity in all forms. That commitment is reflected in Deloitte's all-in global diversity and inclusion strategy. The foundation of our strategy is our focus on respect and inclusion, which addresses all aspects of diversity. Deloitte stands against systemic bias, racism, and unequal treatment. Without a doubt, 2020 has been a wake-up call in many ways. Making sure our people feel engaged and supported is more important than ever in this unprecedented time. To help Deloitte leaders and our people, we've developed programs and toolkits on how to work virtually, address possible unconscious bias, and maintain mental and physical health. As we navigate the COVID-19 environment, engaging with and supporting each other will only become more important. So let's remember to foster an inclusive culture, embrace the benefits of diversity, and engage our people as we work together towards a new, better normal.
While there are many examples of social inequities that are being exacerbated during this time, I'm going to highlight just 2 areas where Deloitte is advocating for change to build a more equitable world. First, there is still a chronic lack of women in senior leadership positions, and the pandemic is disproportionately impacting women around the world and widening the gender gap. Deloitte is committed to taking tangible and immediate actions to foster women's career advancement at all levels and create a really strong pipeline of future female leaders through 4 actions. Firstly, building a culture of inclusion. Secondly, creating awareness of and tackling gender biases and stereotypes. Thirdly, providing active sponsorship through advocacy and ensuring women have access to the opportunities, experience, and exposure they need. Finally, committing to ambitious goals for the proportion of women in leadership across our global organization and holding ourselves to account by monitoring our progress. And the second area is mental health. This was a big focus before the pandemic and has become even more important as we struggle with the impact of COVID-19. I speak openly about my experiences with imposter syndrome, as I believe it's critical to talk about mental health and well-being, to break down the stigma and help people feel less alone.
So what does empathy mean for us at Deloitte? We have to always remember that at Deloitte, we are truly a people business. Our success and what we offer to clients lies in the skills and experience of our people. And empathy is among the most important skills and attributes at Deloitte, as it sits at the core of every genuine relationship. Through the last few months, I have been very humbled by the efforts made to support one another's well-being and get to know one another more, such as through virtual coffees, mindfulness sessions, and even just more day-to-day check-ins with one another. And through these acts, we can truly understand and empathize with our colleagues. Our inclusion agenda also has a very strong, clear message of zero tolerance towards discrimination. Myself, the executive, and our people were greatly motivated to respond to the Black Lives Matter movement with very targeted action. In the UK, we did so by firstly hosting a series of listening sessions with our Black colleagues to hear more from them and understand their experiences. Secondly, we designed and implemented or are implementing an action plan specifically to support our Black colleagues and Black people in society, with key commitments that include the review of our employee journey to ensure that we remove any bias by creating specific mentoring and leadership development programs, and also by building relationships with our Black-founded social enterprises and charity partners.
Il rispetto è per noi un valore fondamentale perché non può esserci inclusione senza rispetto. È per questo che in Deloitte ci impegniamo a garantire un ambiente di lavoro inclusivo e rispettoso in cui tutti possano essere liberi di esprimere se stessi e il proprio talento. In Deloitte portiamo avanti questo impegno comunicandolo esternamente e anche internamente. Abbiamo infatti appena lanciato una campagna chiamata Respect & Inclusion, costituita da una serie di video in cui sono trattati argomenti importanti quali l'uguaglianza di genere, l'inclusione LGBT, la genitorialità e l'equilibrio tra vita professionale e vita personale. Questi video contengono anche una serie di indicazioni sugli strumenti che le nostre persone possono attivare per segnalare comportamenti non rispettosi dei nostri valori e della nostra cultura, e di processi di escalation interni a cui le nostre persone possono fare riferimento per far emergere criticità e problemi senza rischio di ritorsione alcuna. Infine abbiamo introdotto dei percorsi formativi e dei toolkit che trattano di queste tematiche importanti e sono idonei a stimolare la discussione e l'awareness interno e contribuiscono quindi a creare un ambiente di lavoro sempre più inclusivo in cui le nostre persone si sentano libere di esprimere se stessi in condizioni di sicurezza psicologica.
Il coraggio è nella filosofia di Deloitte una delle principali qualità necessarie per lo sviluppo di uno stile di leadership inclusivo. Per me il coraggio si traduce innanzitutto nell'impegno costante nel promuovere e fare rispettare i concetti e principi di diversità e inclusione. Per favorire la trasformazione di una cultura organizzativa e stimolare il cambiamento bisogna essere attrezzati e fornire a tutti i giusti strumenti. Sono molto orgogliosa come Diversity and Inclusion Leader di Deloitte Central Mediterranean, cioè di Italia, Malta e Grecia, del percorso che abbiamo intrapreso nell'ambito di diversità and inclusion. Se dovessi citare alcuni esempi che mi stanno a cuore, non dimenticherei sicuramente i nostri percorsi e webinar volti a aumentare la consapevolezza di tutta la nostra popolazione rispetto ai pregiudizi inconsci e gli stereotipi culturali che possono rappresentare ostacoli allo sviluppo di carriera di colleghe donne, dei genitori, ma non solo. Menzionerei anche i nostri percorsi di training rivolti a tutti per sviluppare comportamenti inclusivi e cultura organizzativa sempre più inclusiva, in grado di valorizzare tutte le diversità. Poi ci sono anche i nostri percorsi di coaching per lo sviluppo della leadership femminile e anche la nostra creazione di una rete di Diversity and Inclusion Ambassador che sono i promotori della cultura inclusiva e che ci sono di grande aiuto nell'avvicinare tutti i colleghi alle nostre iniziative e programmi, riportandoci eventuali esigenze e problematiche che possono emergere nelle varie aree di business.
Connection is an essential human need. It's critically important to our sense of well-being and happiness. For me, connection is also important to drive progress and change. We must work together and build relationships. In the recent months, as we face the threat of COVID-19 and been forced to remain socially distant, staying connected has been more difficult. I have, however, seen many examples of successful connection. One example is how we've strengthened our connection to the group of charity and social enterprise partners we work with in the UK, helping them to navigate through the crisis and reach those most in need. As we emerge from the pandemic, I hope we retain and strengthen our ability to connect, keeping the positive changes, making use of new technological and societal advances, and continuing to drive progress.
In the context of the coronavirus emergency, we promptly activated to give value to the concept of collaboration. We started working internally, with our teams, with our clients, but also externally, therefore for the good of society. We launched several initiatives, and today I want to mention a very small one. It's called Virtual Hugs. One of our clients is a non-profit organization active in elderly care. This organization has been hit hard by the pandemic, and during the lockdown, many residents in their nursing home found themselves completely isolated, with a lack of communication with their relatives and friends. A small group of colleagues started working on that, and they got active, they raised funds, they obtained the support of the Deloitte Foundation, and eventually managed, together with the client, to distribute few tablets. And I like to think that they distribute many more hugs. This is the perfect example of how collaboration works. It's not only a matter of our teams, of our clients. It's also a matter to have a positive impact on the most vulnerable and isolated.
It's an unprecedented time in the world today. We're talking about social distancing and isolation and quarantine and border closing and limiting movement and interaction amongst people. Not particularly inclusive. And I think it's at times like these that we actually have to double down and redouble our efforts to ensure that we are seeking to create an inclusive environment, whether in our communities or in our workplaces. And that's exactly what we're trying to do at Deloitte. Across Asia Pacific, different geographies that are at very different places when it comes to LGBTI plus inclusion. Some very accepting, some not particularly willing to even talk about it. But we are putting the issue on the table. We're seeking to drive change, not accept the status quo, and make Deloitte a more inclusive place for all of our people.
What does pride to foster inclusion mean to me? It means embracing the multiple identities that I have. I'm a Dutch man. I'm gay. I'm Surinamese, Chinese. I'm the oldest of 3 children. These are all identities that create my unique perspective of the world. And we all have them. So it is about creating a psychological safe environment where we can value all these unique perspectives, where we feel that we belong, and of course, treat each other with respect equally. That is all needed and required if we want to create this feeling of empowerment and create this work environment where we are proud of the work that we do and the people we work with.
I've never underestimated the impact of my words and deeds. I understand that a seemingly small action that I take can have a positive impact on others, like making someone aware that the words they've used in a workplace scenario could make somebody feel excluded or upset. It can really feel uncomfortable to call things out, and it would be easier to stay quiet, but that's not what an ally does. An ally also takes time to listen. We can't foster inclusion without first understanding the challenges that people encounter on a daily basis, from an LGBT+ colleague choosing whether or not to come out each time they work with a new team or client, to a black colleague who is scared to walk down the street for fear of being discriminated against. On a personal level, these one-to-one conversations have also been instrumental in my growth as an ally.
包容是美德，包容是美德。Foster inclusion.
insieme inclusione globale.
I believe in global inclusion.
I believe in global inclusion.
I believe in global inclusion. I believe in global inclusion. I believe in global inclusion.